My name is David, and if you had told me a year ago that I'd be standing at my wife's funeral, I wouldn't have believed you. Claire wasn't just my wife. She was my best friend, my anchor, and the one person who could calm the storms I carried inside me. Losing her was like losing the air I breathed, and on that cold autumn morning, as I stood in a dark suit that suddenly felt too tight, I realized that nothing in this world could have prepared me for that kind of grief. The church smelled of lilies, the kind Claire loved, but even their sweetness felt heavy. The stained glass windows caught the pale sunlight, scattering colors across the pews where family and friends sat, heads bowed. Every person seemed wrapped in their own cocoon of sorrow, yet I felt strangely apart from them, as though I was watching my life play out like a movie on a screen. I kept my hand on the casket, my fingers brushing the polished wood as though, somehow, through that surface, I could still touch her. It was absurd, I knew, but grief makes you reach for impossibilities. That was when I felt someone lean close. Warm breath brushed my ear, and a voice I knew all too well whispered words that froze my blood. Now he's mine. I turned, stunned, to see Vanessa, Claire's younger sister. She didn't flinch. Her lips curled into a faint smile, the kind that could be mistaken for sympathy if anyone else had been watching. But I knew what I heard. I knew what she meant. For a heartbeat, I thought I must have imagined it. Who could say something so vile at a moment like this? But the smugness in her eyes told me otherwise. She meant every word. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My throat closed up, my heart pounded in my ears, and all I could do was grip the casket tighter, as though holding on to Claire was the only thing keeping me from breaking right there in front of everyone. The service went on, hymns sung, words spoken, but I barely heard any of it. All I could hear was Vanessa's whisper, replaying in my head like a broken record. Claire and Vanessa had always been close, or at least, that was how it looked to outsiders. But I knew there was something beneath the surface, something sharp. Vanessa had a way of envying her sister while pretending to adore her. She would praise Claire in public, then undermine her in private, always trying to take what wasn't hers. It was in the small things at first, borrowing Claire's dresses and forgetting to return them, copying her hairstyle, inserting herself into her friendships. Claire used to laugh it off, saying, "That's just Vanessa." But I had always felt a chill in the way her sister looked at us, at me. I tried to push the memory of that whisper away, tried to focus on honoring Claire's memory instead. But Vanessa made it impossible. At the reception after the funeral, she clung to me. Too close, too familiar, her hand brushing mine under the table as if by accident. My skin crawled, and I excused myself more than once just to breathe. Yet I wasn't the only one who noticed. Standing quietly at the back of the hall was Mr. Holloway, the family lawyer who had worked with Claire's parents for decades. He was there to pay his respects, nothing more. Or at least, that's what I thought. But later, I would learn that he had heard Vanessa's whisper too. He had seen her smirk, and he had been watching carefully ever since. That night, when I returned home, the house felt unbearable. Her perfume still lingered in the bedroom. Her book lay open on the nightstand, as if she'd only stepped away for a moment. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands shaking, and for the first time since the funeral, I let myself break. The sobs came hard, shaking my chest, tearing through me until I could barely breathe. And then, anger. It wasn't fair. None of it was fair. Losing Claire was pain enough, but to have Vanessa circling like a vulture at her grave, to hear those words, "Now he's mine," as though my wife's death was nothing but an opportunity for her, that was when I knew something inside me had shifted. In the days that followed, family tried to comfort me, dropping by with casseroles, checking in with phone calls, but I could barely focus on their words. What consumed me was that whisper and the sickening thought of what Vanessa might try next. She wasn't just cruel, she was calculating. And if I knew anything about her, it was that she would make her move soon. It started small. She showed up at the house uninvited, claiming she wanted to help me sort through Claire's things. She lingered in the kitchen, running her hand along the counter, as though she were imagining herself there. I told her firmly that I didn't need her help. Her smile faltered, but only for a second. Then came the messages. Late-night texts, words that danced on the edge of inappropriate. "You don't have to be alone. Claire would want you to be happy." I didn't reply, but each time, my fury burned hotter. And yet, a part of me stayed silent. Because I had a sense, a gut feeling, that silence would serve me better than confrontation. What I didn't know then was that the lawyer, Mr. Holloway, was already one step ahead of me. He called me a week after the funeral, saying he needed to discuss some paperwork regarding Claire's estate. I assumed it was routine, signing documents, settling accounts. But when I arrived at his office, he closed the door, folded his hands, and looked me in the eye. "David," he said quietly, "I heard what Vanessa whispered at the funeral. For the first time since that horrible day, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in weeks: hope. Because now, I wasn't alone." I left Mr. Holloway's office that day with my head spinning. For weeks, I'd felt as though I was trapped in some private nightmare, grieving my wife while being stalked by the shadow of her sister. But now, for the first time, I realized someone else had seen what I had seen, heard what I had heard. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't losing my mind. "Vanessa is a dangerous woman," Mr. Holloway had said before I left. His voice was calm, measured, but it carried the weight of experience. "Your wife knew that, and she made preparations before she passed." Those words clung to me all the way home. Preparations. What did Claire know? What had she feared enough to prepare for? The days after that meeting became a blur. I was still grieving, still waking up at night expecting to feel Claire's warmth beside me, still catching myself setting 2 plates at the table before remembering I only needed 1. But now there was something new, a current of tension running beneath the grief. Because Vanessa wasn't stopping. She called me every other day, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I just wanted to check in on you, David. You must be so lonely in that big house. Why don't I bring dinner over? Or better yet, why don't you come stay with me for a while? You shouldn't be alone." Every time I declined, she grew bolder. The texts became more suggestive. One night, well past midnight, my phone buzzed. "I know Claire's gone, but you don't have to suffer. We can keep her memory alive, together." I stared at the words, while rising in my throat. My hands shook as I deleted the message, but the sickness stayed with me until dawn. Vanessa wasn't just circling. She was moving in. A week later, I came home from the grocery store to find her car parked in my driveway. I froze. The front door was ajar. My chest tightened as I rushed inside, only to find her in the living room, on her knees, rifling through boxes of Claire's belongings. "What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded. My voice cracked, louder than I intended. She looked up with that infuriatingly calm smile. "David, relax. I was just trying to help. Claire wouldn't want you to drown in all this clutter. You need a fresh start. Get out," I said, my tone low, shaking with restrained rage. She tilted her head, feigning hurt. "Why are you being so cold? Don't you see I'm the only one who truly understands you right now?" That was the moment it clicked. Vanessa wasn't just selfish. She was delusional. Somewhere in that twisted mind of hers, she had convinced herself that Claire's death had freed me for her. I forced her out, slamming the door behind her, and locked every window in the house. But the chill she left behind seeped into the walls. The next morning, I sat in Mr. Holloway's office again, my patience gone. "She's pushing further every day," I told him. "If I don't stop her, she's going to take over my life." He nodded slowly. "I expected this. Vanessa has always wanted what wasn't hers. Claire confided in me years ago, worried about her sister's obsession. That's why she made sure certain protections were in place." "What kind of protections?" I asked. He leaned forward, lowering his voice as though the walls themselves might be listening. "David, you need to trust me. Don't confront Vanessa directly. Don't block her, don't lash out. Let her play her hand. The moment she oversteps, we'll be ready." Claire saw to that. It was maddening, not having the full picture. But there was a steadiness in Mr. Holloway's gaze that calmed me. For the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't powerless. Vanessa, meanwhile, wasn't slowing down. At the next family gathering, a memorial dinner organized by Claire's parents, she sat beside me, far too close, her perfume overwhelming. She reached for my hand under the table, curling her fingers around mine. I pulled away sharply, but her smile never wavered. "You'll come around," she whispered. "You always looked at me differently, David. Don't deny it." My stomach turned. Claire's parents, sitting just a few seats away, had no idea. To them, Vanessa was grieving too. They couldn't see the predator behind her mask. And that was the cruelest part. To everyone else, Vanessa was the picture of a supportive sister, always checking on me, always offering to help. Only I saw the truth. Only Mr. Holloway knew the darkness she carried. One night, After another string of texts, I broke. I sat at the kitchen table, my phone buzzing over and over as Vanessa's words filled the screen. "We're meant to be, David. You'll see. Claire's gone. Nothing is standing in our way anymore." I nearly smashed the phone against the wall. Instead, I called Mr. Holloway. "She's not stopping," I said, my voice hoarse. "What do I do?" There was silence on the other end for a long moment. Then, finally, his voice came steady and low. "David, it's time you saw what Claire left behind." The next afternoon, I found myself back in that old oak-paneled office, the air thick with the scent of leather and dust. Mr. Holloway pulled a folder from his desk, placing it gently before me. "This," he said, "is Claire's will. But more importantly, it's her letter to you." My hands trembled as I opened the envelope inside. The handwriting was hers, flowing, delicate, so achingly familiar. "My love," it began. "If you're reading this, it means I'm no longer by your side. I know how heavy this will be for you, and I wish I could shield you from the pain. But I need you to know something. Vanessa has always coveted what we had. She told me once, years ago, that if I weren't around, she would take my place in your life." I laughed it off then, but deep down I knew her words were serious. "That's why I've taken steps to protect you, and to protect what we built together." I swallowed hard, my vision blurring with tears. She had known. She had seen it coming. The letter went on, outlining not just her fears, but her resolve. Claire had ensured that her estate, her assets, and even personal items of sentimental value would never fall into Vanessa's hands. More than that, she had left detailed instructions for Mr. Holloway to guard against Vanessa, to watch her closely, and to intervene if she ever tried to sink her claws into me. "You are stronger than you think, David," the letter concluded. "Don't let her win. Live for me. Live for us." I sat in silence for a long time, clutching those pages like they were the last remnants of her heartbeat. When I finally looked up, Mr. Holloway's eyes were steady on mine. "Vanessa doesn't know it yet," he said, "but she's walking straight into a trap of her own making. And when she does, we'll be there." That night, for the first time since Claire's death, I slept without waking in panic. My grief was still there. It always would be, but it was joined by something new. Purpose. Vanessa thought she was circling closer. She thought I was breaking down, vulnerable, easy to claim. But she had no idea that Claire, even in death, was still standing between us. And when the final moment came, it wouldn't be me who destroyed Vanessa. It would be Claire. The weeks leading to Vanessa's collapse felt like a storm gathering on the horizon. I could feel it in every phone call, every unexpected visit, every smirk she gave me when no one else was looking. She was emboldened, convinced she had already won, and yet I carried with me the weight of Claire's letter and the steady guidance of Mr. Holloway. He had told me not to lash out, not to fight back prematurely. Let her overreach, he'd said. Let her write her own downfall. And that's exactly what she did. It started small, another text late at night. "You don't need to grieve anymore. Claire's gone, David. Let me heal you." Then, more invasive, she showed up at my work one afternoon, leaning against her car in the parking lot, waiting. When I asked her what the hell she was doing, she smiled that sickly sweet smile. "Checking on you. A man like you shouldn't be left alone. You deserve warmth. You deserve me." I shoved past her, refusing to take the bait, but she didn't stop. She started planting seeds with Claire's family, telling them I was distant, that I wasn't coping well, that maybe I needed someone to watch over me. That someone being her. It was nauseating, but Mr. Holloway's words kept me grounded. Every move she made, every lie she spread, was building a noose she would eventually slip over her own neck. The breaking point came at a memorial event, 6 months after Claire's passing. Her parents had organized it, a gathering of friends and extended family to celebrate her life. The room was filled with laughter and tears, old photographs projected on the walls, the air heavy with bittersweet nostalgia. And then there was Vanessa, weaving through the crowd like a queen holding court. She carried herself as though she were the widow, not me, clasping hands, giving sympathetic smiles, speaking of our loss, as if she had been Claire's other half. I tried to keep my distance, but she found me anyway. Sliding up beside me, she whispered, "After tonight, everyone will understand. They'll see us together. They'll know it's real." My stomach dropped, but I said nothing. I remembered Holloway's instructions. Patience. Later in the evening, as people gathered for speeches, Vanessa made her move. She stood up uninvited, her glass raised high, her eyes locked on me. "We all know how much Claire meant to us," she began, her voice trembling with a performance-worthy quiver. "But what most of you don't know is how much she wanted David to be happy. And I know, she would want him to find that happiness again, to not be alone." The room shifted uneasily. People glanced at each other, uncertain where she was going. I knew exactly. She smiled, tilting her glass toward me. "And that's why I'll be here for him. Always. Because love doesn't die with one person. It lives on, sometimes in unexpected places." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Claire's parents looked horrified. My fists clenched under the table, but before I could react, a calm, authoritative voice cut through the tension. "Enough, Vanessa." Every head turned. Mr. Holloway was standing at the back of the room, his presence commanding silence. He wasn't holding a glass. He was holding a folder. The air shifted instantly. Vanessa froze, her confident mask faltering. Mr. Holloway walked forward slowly, his eyes fixed on her like a judge preparing to deliver a sentence. "You've said quite enough these past few months," he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "And tonight it ends." He placed the folder on the table in front of me, then looked out at the assembled guests. "Many of you don't know me. My name is Richard Holloway. I was Claire Whitmore's lawyer, and more importantly, her friend. Before she passed, Claire entrusted me with certain documents. She feared this very moment. She feared her sister would try to exploit her death. And she was right." The room erupted in whispers, people shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Vanessa's face drained of color. "That's a lie," she spat, her voice trembling now, not with feigned grief but with panic. "Claire loved me. She wanted me to be happy." "No," Holloway interrupted sharply. "Claire loved her husband, and she knew you would try to take him for yourself. That's why she left behind evidence. Evidence of your obsession, your words, your intentions." He opened the folder and began reading aloud. "If anything happens to me, I fear Vanessa will see it as her chance to replace me in David's life. She has told me as much. In moments of cruelty, she believed I'd forget. I do not want her near him in that way. I do not want her to poison what we built. Protect him from her." The words hung in the air like thunder. Claire's parents gasped audibly, tears welling in her mother's eyes. The guests, who had once laughed politely at Vanessa's jokes, now stared at her with open disgust. Vanessa stumbled backward, shaking her head. No, that's not true. She made that up. She was jealous of me. She knew David always liked me. Enough." This time it was me who spoke, my voice low, steady, and louder than I'd expected. "You whispered at Claire's funeral that I was yours. Do you remember that?" "Because Holloway does." He was standing right behind us. The silence that followed was absolute. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. The mask was gone. All that remained was a desperate, exposed woman stripped bare in front of the very people she had hoped to manipulate. The fallout was immediate. Claire's parents turned away from her, their faces hardened with betrayal. Guests whispered harshly, some even glaring openly. What had once been sympathy for the grieving sister curdled into contempt. Vanessa tried to stammer out excuses, but no one listened. Holloway closed the folder with finality. "This gathering was meant to honor Claire. Instead, you've turned it into a stage for your delusions. I will not allow it any longer. Leave this place, Vanessa. You are not welcome here." For the first time since Claire's death, I saw her sister falter. Truly falter. Her shoulders slumped, her eyes darting around the room, seeking an ally and finding none. Slowly, with all eyes on her, she turned and fled, the sound of the door slamming behind her echoing like the end of a rain. The rest of the evening was quiet, subdued. No one quite knew what to say, but there was relief in the air, too. The weight of Vanessa's looming presence was gone, replaced by something that felt dangerously close to peace. Later that night, after the guests had gone, I stood alone in the empty hall. The photographs of Claire still lined the walls, her smile frozen in 100 captured moments of joy. I traced my fingers over one frame, whispering into the quiet. She protected me, even now, even after everything. I don't know if anyone heard, but I felt it. Life after that was not easy. Grief doesn't vanish with a confrontation. The bed was still cold at night, the mornings still heavy. But I had something Vanessa never expected me to have, the truth. Claire's truth. My truth. And as for Vanessa, word spread quickly. Families talk. Communities talk. Her reputation, once polished and sympathetic, crumbled under the weight of her own greed. Invitations stopped arriving. Friends drifted away. The woman who had mocked grief and whispered betrayal found herself utterly alone. That was her punishment. Not jail. Not violence. Isolation. The very thing she had tried to exploit in me became her reality. To everyone listening to this story, let me say this. Sometimes the people you think you can trust are the ones who cut deepest. And sometimes, even after death, the love of the right person can shield you from the worst betrayal. Claire did that for me. She gave me strength when I had none, and she reminded me that even in the darkest moments, the truth will always surface. And to Vanessa, wherever she is now, she may have whispered that I was hers. But in the end, she only exposed herself for what she truly was. A shadow. And shadows never win against the light.